Would you survive 24 hours on this deck? Before GPS, before modern rescue helicopters, sailors faced the brutal Atlantic with nothing but riveted steel and sheer luck. Every dip of this bow is a coin toss between riding the wave or snapping the keel in half. Here is the untold story of the mission that defied the sea. Out here in the open sea, there are no safety buffers and no soft landings. Every takeoff into a gale was a gamble with gravity. Look at how the bow plunges into that trough. For naval aviators and air crews, a pitching deck is the ultimate nightmare. When the ship rolls and pitches like this, the flight deck swings up and down by 30 to 40 feet in a matter of seconds. Launching a plane off a deck moving that violently takes split-second timing. If the pilot throttles up when the bow is pitching down, the aircraft flies straight into the sea spray. You have to launch right as the ship crests the wave, using the upward momentum of the vessel to lift the plane into the air. Notice how much water washes over the main deck. Down on the flight deck and hangar bays, sailors worked in extreme danger just keeping the aircraft secured. Planes parked on deck had to be tied down with heavy steel cables and wheel chocks. If a single cable snapped under the weight of a rolling swell, a multi-ton aircraft would break free, crashing into other planes or sliding right off the edge into the ocean. Deck crews braved freezing salt spray and gale force winds to retighten tie-downs every time a heavy crest slammed the hull. While the sea rages, the mechanics below deck face their own fight. Preheating engines and keeping hydraulic lines from freezing in sub-zero sea air required non-stop maintenance. Inside the hangar, the smell of aviation fuel, hot oil, and sea salt fills the air. Every time the hull shudders from a massive wave hitting the bow, tools scatter, and technicians have to brace against bulkheads. Keeping aircraft combat ready under these conditions was a miracle of mid-century engineering and sheer discipline. To get enough lift for takeoff, the ship has to turn directly into the wind, driving headfirst into the massive swells you see breaking on camera. That means taking waves head-on to maximize airspeed over the deck. As the engines roar to full throttle, pilots stare down a short strip of steel deck disappearing into gray fog and ocean spray. There is zero room for engine hesitation. Once the brakes release, you either reach flying speed before the end of the deck or vanish into the white water below. Taking off into a storm is tough, but bringing a plane back down on a pitching deck is 10 times harder. Returning pilots had to line up their approach while matching the violent timing of the ship's roll. Coming in too low meant slamming into the stern of the ship. Coming in too high meant missing the arrestor wires altogether and crashing into the barrier. Once aircrew broke through the storm clouds, navigation was completely visual and mechanical. Rain, ocean haze, and low cloud cover made tracking the carrier task force nearly impossible. With strict radio silence in effect to avoid enemy detection, planes couldn't rely on radio beacons to find their way home. Pilots had to track their fuel consumption down to the gallon, calculating their return vector based on wind drift and estimated ship speed over open water. Look closely at the crew members managing the vessel in this footage. Deck crews wore color-coded jerseys, so officers could spot specialists instantly through heavy spray and smoke. These men stood on open, unsheltered decks for hours, exposed to biting winds and washing seas, securing cables, pushing aircraft, and ensuring every flight operation went off without a hitch despite the weather. Naval aviation in this era was brutal on machinery. Salt water is extremely corrosive to metal airframes, engine components, and control surfaces. After every flight through sea mist, crews had to thoroughly wash down and inspect aircraft to prevent corrosion from eating away vital parts. The sheer durability of these vintage planes and the ships carrying them remains one of the most remarkable achievements of maritime history. Reels like this were shot by military cameramen lashing themselves to deck structures to capture raw operational footage. These archives served two purposes: evaluating vessel and crew performance in extreme sea states, and recording historical moments for training future generations of mariners and pilots. Every frame captures the brutal reality of operating on the high seas. When the mission concludes and the ship finally cuts through calmer waters, the true cost of naval operations becomes clear. It isn't just about machines or firepower. It's about the resilience of the human crews who braved unforgiving oceans and unpredictable skies to complete the mission and return home safely.